So today we are going to discuss about immunity. Specifically, we will discuss the innate immunity. But the question is why immunity is so important for us. Basically, immunity provides us protection from the different pathogens like bacteria, viruses, fungi, worms, and the different parasites. So that's why immunity is very much important in fighting against the different pathogens. So in the immunity, you will see three line of defense. If the pathogen successful in crossing the first line of defense, then that pathogen will face the second line of defense. And if again that pathogen successful in crossing the second line of defense, then that pathogen will face the third line of defense. And if still that pathogen successful in crossing the third line of defense, then that pathogen will cause disease in our body. So it means that pathogen will cross the different line defense. Okay, so if you see here in the immunity, as we have discussed, you will see the three line of defense: first line of defense, second, and the third. In the first line of defense, you will see the physical barrier of the body. Okay, and that barrier is actually provided by the skin and the mucous membrane. You will see the two most important physical barrier in the first line of defense. First one is the skin and second one is the mucous membrane. Okay, so basically skin protects our body from outside. As you can see that here is the person, and you will see skin actually present or direct in contact with the environment from the outside of the body. Okay, that will prevent the entering of the different pathogens into the body. That is the role in the first defense. Okay, and mucous membrane. So mucous membrane, as you can see that the GIT, gastrointestinal tract, you will see the esophagus, stomach, intestine, small intestine, large intestine. So these actually lined by the mucous membrane. Similarly, for the respiratory tract, you will see the trachea, bronchi also lined by the mucous membrane. Okay, and in case of eye is also protected by the mucus. So it means that mucous membrane protects our body from inside and skin protect our body from outside. Here is the first line of defense, and that is the physical barrier. Okay, and in this second line of defense, you will see the innate immunity. Okay, that's the most important thing. In this second line of defense, you will see the innate immunity. Okay, so innate immunity, you will see the two most important component: cell mediated response and the humoral response. Okay, in the innate immunity, you will again see two most important components, that is the cell mediated response, and second one will be the humoral response. Humoral response. Okay, so basically in the cell mediated response, you will see the different cells that actually prevent us from different pathogens. So in the cell mediated, you will see the natural killer cell, you will see the neutrophil. Okay, you will see the different macrophages that are actually present in the cell mediated response, or you will also see the dendritic cell. So here are basically the different cells that are actually involved in the cell response of the innate immunity, and they are actually present in activated form. When they detect the pathogens, then they suddenly destroy that pathogen. That's the most important thing. Okay, in the humoral response of the innate immunity, you will see the complement system. That's the most important thing. That will be the complement system. So these are basically the different proteins that are actually present in the plasma. Okay, if you see the third line of defense, so in the third line of defense, you will see the adaptive, or you can say acquired immunity. So in the third, you will see adaptive, or you can say acquired immunity. Acquired immunity. So in that case, you will again see the two type of response, cell mediated response and the humoral response. So in the cell mediated response, here is the cell mediated response. You will see most important cells that are actually involved in the cell mediated response of the adaptive, or you can say acquired immunity, will be the T cells. Okay. And in the humoral response, you will see the presence of the antibodies or immunoglobulins. So here are basically the cell mediated response, and here is the humoral response of the adaptive immunity. Okay, so the most important thing which you have to remember about the innate immunity will be the innate immunity is actually non-specific. Okay, that is non-specific. Innate immunity is non-specific. They will protect us from different types of the pathogens. Okay, but in case of adaptive immunity, you will see the specific or targeted response against the specific pathogens or microorganisms. Like if I say that the productions of the antibodies against the specific pathogens, if I say streptococcal pneumoniae, so against that you will see the formations of the adaptive response, specific or targeted response. Okay, but in case of innate immunity, you will see the rapid response in case of innate immunity. So that's why we called it innate, and that is actually present by birth. So in innate immunity, that is the rapid, but in acquired or the adaptive immunity, you will see the delayed response. It takes time for several days. Okay, and in case of innate immunity, you will see no memory formation. Okay, what does it mean? It's mean that when one pathogens enter into body for first time, when next time that pathogens again enter into the body, then there is no memory formation in case of innate immunity against that pathogens. But in case of adapted or acquired immunity, you will see the formations of the memory against that pathogens. Okay, so here are basically the different features of the innate immunity: non-specific response, rapid response, and the no memory formations against the particular pathogens. So here are basically the three line of defenses. Okay, now we will discuss in detail about the different components of the innate immunity. We will discuss component that actually limit the entry of the organism into the body, and second we will discuss the component that actually limit the growth of the organism within the body. Okay, so first of all we will discuss the component that actually limit the entering of the bacteria or different pathogens inside the body. So most important, as we have discussed, is the skin and the mucous membrane. These are basically the physical barriers, and they actually present. These are also non-specific. They will protect from different types of the pathogen, and they are not specific to the certain types of the pathogens will enter or certain type of the pathogen will block through the skin. Okay, so skin and the mucous membrane, that is the most, that is actually lie in the innate immunity. Okay, and the fatty acids that are actually present in the skin also retard the growth of the different microorganism. So next you will see the eye, most important organ of our body, and from the eye you will see the productions of the tears. So in the tears you will see the lysozyme. Okay, in the tears you will see the presence of the lysozyme, and lysozymes actually destroy the peptidoglycan of the different bacteria. So that's why due to the destructions of the peptidoglycan, that bacteria will ultimately go towards the destruction. So actually tears protect us from the different bacterial infections. Okay, and next you will see the respiratory tract. In the trachea you will see the presence of the different cilia. You will see the presence of the different cilia, and in the trachea you will see the productions of the mucus. So whenever the pathogens enter inside the trachea, then that pathogens will trap by the cilia, and whenever the cilia propel the mucus outside the body, then what will happen? So trap bacteria or trap pathogen will also be expelled along with the mucus from our body. So it means that cilia also protect us from the different pathogens in expelling the mucus along with the trap pathogens. Okay, and next in the lungs you will see the alveolar macrophages. Okay, you will see the alveolar macrophages. So alveolar macrophages also protect us from the different pathogens by their destruction. They will destroy the different pathogens. So here are basically the two most important components that is related to the respiratory tract. And next you will see the environment. So two most important environment in our body that is actually present in the stomach and the vagina. So in the stomach, here is the stomach and here is the vagina. So in the vagina and the stomach, you will see the low pH. And low pH is not favorable for the growth of the pathogens. So it means that as we know that the stomach produces the HCl and HCl causes in the reductions of the low pH. So in the low pH, bacteria face or different pathogen face a problem in their growth. So it means that low pH is helpful in the prevention of the different pathogens. Okay, next you will see the normal flora. Okay, normal microorganisms that are actually present in our body. So most important locations of the normal flora, that will be the throat, or you can say pharynx, throat, vagina, and you can say colon. So here are basically the three most important sides of the normal flora in our body. So actually you will see in that side, if I discuss the throat, that is the pharynx. So in the throat you will see the receptor, and that receptor is actually occupied by the normal flora of the body. Okay, and now there is no place for the attachment of the pathogens. Similarly, in the vagina, you will see the presence of the normal flora to the receptor. Again, in the colon, you will see the presence of the normal flora. But whenever you will see the destructions of the normal flora, then what will happen? Then you will see, if I say, here is the pathogens. When the normal flora destroy in the throat, then the pathogen will get the place for its attachment, and that pathogen will attach to the throat and cause the infection. Similarly, in case of vagina, and similarly in case of colon. So it means that normal flora also protect us from different pathogenic infections. And next you will see the presence of the defensin. Defensin proteins, these are basically the cationic proteins that actually makes hole in the different microorganism and destroy the different microorganism. So it's mean that defensin protein also helpful in the protection of from the different microorganism, or you can say pathogens. Next we will discuss the components that limit the growth of the organism within the body. So most important cell, that is the natural killer cell. Natural killer cell. So natural killer cell do two things. They actually destroy the virus infected cell, and they are also important in the destruction of the malignant or cancer cell. So two most important thing, if I say here is this cell and that cell is actually infected by the virus. Now this is basically the infected cell. Now this cell is actually destroyed by the natural killer cell. Okay. Similarly, in case of cancer cells, or you can say malignant cell, now natural killer cell will detect the malignant cell and destroy these cells. So it means that natural killer cell helpful in the destructions of the virus infected cells and the cancer cells. Next you will see the neutrophil. Okay, neutrophil, and neutrophil also helpful in the destructions of the different pathogens. Okay, you next you will see the macrophages and the dendritic cell. Here is the macrophage and here is the dendritic cell. So these are also important in the destruction or phagocytosis of the different pathogens. But there is a difference between the neutrophil and the macrophage and dendritic cell. So neutrophils just phagocytose the different pathogens, But macrophages and dendritic cells after phagocytosis, they will present the different components of the pathogens to their surface. If I write it here, so here is the macrophages now, and here is the different pathogens. Now that pathogens will be engulfed by these macrophages, and after the processing happens in the macrophages, the components of the pathogens will be presented to the surface of the macrophages, and that macrophages will present the component of the pathogens to the T cell. Okay, that's the most important thing. So it's mean that macrophages is actually the component of the innate immunity. Here is the macrophage, that is the component of innate immunity, and T cell is actually the component of the adaptive immunity. So it's mean that innate immunity, along with the destructions of the pathogens, they will also activate the adapted or acquired immunity. Okay, that's the most important thing. So these are basically macrophages, and the dendritic cell are actually the antigen presenting cell. They will present the different components of the pathogen to their surface. Okay, next you will see the most important protein, that is interferon. Interferon protein actually inhabits the replications of the different viruses. Okay, next protein again, that is the transferrin, or you can say lactoferrin. These actually store the iron. These proteins actually store the iron, and iron is very much important in the growth of the bacteria. When there is no iron for the bacteria, then there is no growth of the bacteria in that case. Okay, next you will see the complement system. So complement system is very much important. So in the complement system, you will see the formations of the membrane attack complex. So complement system make hole in the pathogens and destructions of the different pathogens, specifically different bacteria. Okay, next you will see the fever. So fever is also helpful in the inhibitions of the growth of the different pathogens and the bacteria. That is the, in fever you will see the high temperature. Okay, next you will see the inflammation. That's the most important thing in case of inflammation. So when these cells like natural killer cell, neutrophil, macrophages and T cells become activated, then they go towards the inflammation. And in the inflammation, you will see the different signs like heat, pain, swelling and redness. So these are basically the different signs of the inflammation when these cells, immune cells, become activated in the destruction of the different pathogens. Or when someone get injured, you can also see the inflammation in that case. Okay, and last most important is the apolipoproteins B, APOBC3G. That is the basically RNA editing enzyme. They cause the hypermutations in the retroviral DNA and the messenger RNA, and inhibits the growth of the different viruses. So this is all about the innate immunity. If you still have any question regarding these components of the innate immunity, you may ask in the comment section. Thank you so much.